started the Yellow Dot journey in July, and you mentioned to Liesl saying, done the course, just can't get going, right? Would you say that was one of the frustrations that you experienced when you were first to Yellow Dots, or what were some of the other frustrations that you found, and maybe share some of the lessons from that?
I think one of the biggest frustrations that we have, and I think everybody has it, of course at that given time it's a massive frustration, is timing. You set alarms, you do everything that you possibly can, but yet you miss the run. Hell man, I'm in the house and I'm missing the alarms. And that was for me extremely frustrating, because you at that point, you in yellow, you want to progress. It's nerve-wracking on the one hand, it's frustrating on the other hand, it's funny on the other hand, but you're not progressing because you're progressing at a snail's pace. And now you're still missing runs. And when you see that you've missed a run of 50% or 100% or 30%, you think, oh my word, how did I miss this? What am I going to do? So that I think was the biggest frustration I experienced. And the lesson, or the way I got around it was I went and wrote down a mission statement, or a statement of intent, or an expression of intent for whatever you like. And I still remember that today, and some of the older HodlDots or HodlNots will remember this from previous calls. And it read simply, it just said that I aim to increase and accumulate profits to the tune of 3 to 6% per day, trading 3 candles at a time over 4 to 6 hours per day, 5 days a week. And every day I wrote that down, every night I wrote that down, and every afternoon I wrote that down until it just stuck in my head. And that's the way I've got it. And I made peace that outside that framework, if it didn't work, it didn't work. It wasn't meant to be. But during that framework of that time span, or that plan that I had, that's where I focused. And then I stopped focusing on the missing of the runs to focusing on what I'm actually doing.
And
don't know if it makes sense.
No, it does. And I think this is why our reasons why, and why we should look at, from perception point of view, how they will and can evolve. And also then being able to focus and letting things go. I think not to instill a sense of laziness or complacency, but being able to just make peace with, I missed this run, how do I get the next one? Instead of, we've all experienced FOMO. Everyone on this call knows what that feels like. You've stepped away, or something has run 300% while you were sleeping, and then you endeavor to stay up the whole night the next night, nothing runs. I think it's something that comes quicker to some and longer to others. Do you think that with the Yellow Dot level and that realization, that expression of intent, I quite like that, tied in with journaling, that worked well together, or is it just two separate entities that just happen to work at the same time?
No, I think that was exactly the point, because it what's the word I would imagine, synchronicity. That's where everything came together. I literally took different colored pencils or Kokies or whatever you want to call them, and I drew the little dots out from yellow to black. And then I drew where I am and what I want. And writing down the plan and looking at the journal wasn't your sob story. It's not a place where you're writing all sorts of things. You are writing down things pertaining to your journey on 3M. And what it did for me was it kept things top of mind. So the first thing I wrote down was I made the dots, and then I wrote my thoughts down. Then I wrote my plans down. And the next morning, first thing, I would take my journal and I'd think about the previous day and I'd review the previous day. Given the plan I wrote down, and what I did, and how it turned out, and what I'm going to do today. And that's where the journal helped. Is it kept things in perspective. It kept things accountable. You know, 3M is about accountability. And you're accountable only to yourself. In fact, you're accountable to your coach as well, because they're spending the time and the effort to help you. But that's where it changed my journey altogether, when I got that right. And it doesn't come right immediately, because if you're not used to doing it, it takes a bit of time to get into it. It takes discipline. It takes, do I really have to do this now? Come on, you know. Trust me, write it down. You'll see what a difference it makes.